It's Marley from the Energy Boutique with a brand new episode in a brand new series called MARLEE Rants. This particular series is exclusive for my Patreon members. I want to thank you so much for being here, for all the love and support that you give my way, and mostly for your patience. I know I've been talking about launching a very private podcast for quite some time. It's taken me a while to get my ass in gear and actually start. I don't know about y'all, but that's the hardest part for me, is actually starting something. I can sit around and think about things for eons, but actually taking that first step and just doing it is definitely where I get caught up. The perfectionism in me just kind of, goes through the whole thing. The worries, the doubts, the fears, the insecurities. What do I say? Is it worthy of my time? Is it worthy of your time? Am I pouring the right energy in it? Is this worth talking about? And I've come to the conclusion that, you know what? Too much thinking just kind of squeezes the magic out of everything. And sometimes you just have to pull the trigger. You just have to do. So I am sitting here with no real game plan, no real structure to what it is that I want to talk about. I just needed to pull the trigger. And of course, there is no better day for me to be doing this than today, November 18th. Why is that? Well, because it is my birthday. And I want to thank you so much for all the birthday love that you all have shown my way as well. I always try to do something new on my birthday. Reason being, and you may in astrology hear that your birthday is also called your solar return. I want to talk about that for a second. First of all, when we talk about solar energy, we talk about the sun. And of course, the sun has to take a full year trip around the cosmos and land back at the very, very degree, the moment of the time in which you were brought into this world. That's why when we're in astrology, birth time is so important. There's a lot of people out there guessing what their birth time is, and that does not give an accurate energetic signature to who it is that you are. We have to know the moment that you took your very first breath in this world in order to actually see where all the planets were in the cosmos, because that, of course, gives you a very unique, I'm going to say, energy, a very unique presence, mission, purpose here in this world. And every year that you have your birthday, you have what we call your solar return. The sun comes back to the very point in which it was at the time of your birth. Now, the sun is our life force energy. It is basically shining a bright light, downloading us with light codes, with energy, with mission, with purpose that we are supposed to use over this next natal year. And 3 months prior to your birthday, we call that your dark season. Many of us go through the dark night of the soul 3 months prior to our birthday. It's kind of when things unwind, when we go inward, when we reflect. And for many of us, that is when things kind of feel like they're falling apart. We await that solar energy of our birthday in order to pick us back up, dust us off, dry us off, and prepare us, empower us to charge ahead. Now, I always try to do something a little bit different on my birthday. And just so you know, I am a Scorpio. And what's very interesting for me this year is that the moon is in Virgo, which that is my moon placement. So I'm actually having my solar return and my lunar return within only a couple of hours of each other. It doesn't normally happen like that. It's a pretty interesting dynamic, which means that I'm in a pretty opportunistic time in order to make a very, very important change in my life. I'm going to talk about that here in just a second. But of course, with this birthday energy swirling, with these new solar energy codes, lunar energy codes being downloaded to me here today, I wanted to step out of the shadows. And as a Scorpio, Scorpios tend to prefer living in the shadows. That's why you won't really see me do many live events. I have no desire to be seen. I barely have a desire to be heard. But my voice was my greatest gift, gifted to me a couple of, over a decade ago. I'm going to talk about that here in just a second. And so I am semi-comfortable using my voice, using my words in order to communicate messages and knowledge. Not so comfortable being seen. Probably something I'm going to have to work on. Anywho, I thought it was important to do something outside of my comfort zone. I know that I have been kind of dangling this carrot of a private podcast out in front of my community for quite a long time. And again, I want to thank you for your patience sitting here, being a Patreon member and awaiting this private podcast. And I wanted to talk about how, of course, everybody celebrates their birthday in a different way. For me, I actually kind of despise my birthday. It was never a good time. Going back to my childhood, it was always a kerfuffle. I usually always got sick. Of course, didn't realize back then what I know now, but usually people get sick right before their birthday or on their birthday because of the solar infusion, the downloads, the light codes that they are receiving. It is essentially a death of the old, a resurrection, a renewal, a rebirth, a resurgence of the new. And of course, what we know now about ascension symptoms and basically the energetic I'm going to say backlash and consequences that we get from the electromagnetic frequencies coming into the earth. It affects us all differently. It affects our bodies differently. And according to your chart, you can kind of figure out where in your year, your life cycle, when you are going to have that downtime. Now, as a kid, of course, when you get sick, you have to have canceled birthday plans. And I was one of those kids that faithfully got sick every year on my birthday. And I don't mean just sniffles. I mean like pneumonia, right? Like hospital visits and medication and not being able to be in school and not being able to have birthday parties and so on and so forth. And so for me, birthdays, I always kind of dreaded it. It was always like waiting for the ball to drop, like what bad thing is going to happen this time, or waiting to get sick, or waiting for, just a catastrophe to take place in my life. And of course, it wasn't until I, jumped into astrology that I started understanding the patterns, the behaviors of the energy in my chart. And, when those events line up, you definitely have to expect those particular not so nice events and circumstances to unfold. Another interesting thing about my birthday, it is that regardless of the weather, whether it was called for or not, it always snows on my birthday. Sometimes it's the first snow of the year. Other times it's just the first time that snow accumulates on the ground. And I'm sitting here looking out the window. That is what I am staring at right now, is snow. And one would say, oh, well, that's a lovely gift to get on your birthday. Not so much. Not a huge fan of it. I run cold pretty much all year round. I'm one of those people in the midst of summer still wearing long sleeves. I am generally, body temperature wise, cold. So this is not my favorite season. And to see snow again on my birthday is like, you know what? Awesome. Typical. Right on schedule, right on cue. Thank you very much. But let's warm up here because I have no desire for it to stick around. And honestly, for as far back as I can remember, I don't know that, I don't even know when the last time I had a birthday that snow did not fall from the sky. I'm going to go out on a limb and say there hasn't been too many birthdays where there wasn't snow, and definitely a gift that I wish I could return. So the reason why I'm kind of doing this here today is because I am on the brink of a major change in my life. If you listen to the daily energy forecast, I briefly touched on it in the November 18th forecast. I kind of said that I'd talk a little bit more about it, a little bit more in depth in the live chat that, of course, is going ahead. Definitely on schedule for this evening. Hope you can join me, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Nothing has changed. Today is a typical normal day for me. I don't like to do much. I always have friends and family that want to stop by, that want to bring cards, that want to do birthday cake, that want to do dinners. And you know what? I shut it all out. I say, no, thank you. I just want to spend the day by myself. Normal, typical day, work day, if you will. And a lot of that is not because I don't want to celebrate or that I'm not grateful for the love, but to me, this is about perfecting the mindset. Okay. So, this particular podcast will drop at 12:24 p.m. That is my birth date. And it's very important that I initiate this at this time because my ass will be in the bath. You got that right. I always put myself in a salt bath with some bath boosters, my own type of magical mixture, if you will, that cleanses me, cuts the cords of the energetic year that I just came out of, which if you've been with me for any amount of time, you would know, very tough year for me. 6 deaths, surgery, three different dental surgeries, a lot of twists and turns over this past year. Can't wait to cleanse this energy off me. And of course, being in the bath and cutting those cords free you up, cleanse you, prepare you for the year that I'm about to walk into. And mind state is everything. So I have some major changes. In case you're wondering, I am 38 years old. That is a 11 life path for me. The master manifester, master creator, master builder. And so this next year, I already know is going to be super powerful, not only because of that, but because I've had some very important aspects be triggered in my chart. In case you haven't noticed, we've had these eclipse energies on the Scorpio and Taurus axis, which is very personal to me in my chart. And if you've been with me for any length of time, you would know that over a year ago, my family decided to make a major move to a different province. And essentially, I have been alone in the woods by myself for this past year. And although it has been very positive in a lot of ways, it's also put in perspective, what am I doing with my life? Especially with each death, each loss that I have had to deal with over the course of this past year. It has really put into perspective how fast time goes and how unexpected events can totally rock you. And it makes me question each and every day, what am I doing? Why am I living in the woods by myself? Why am I, so far away from the very small group of people that I care about in the world? And as many of you know, I went on a little bit of a mini vacation here a couple of weeks ago. That was actually the first time that I was able to travel and go visit my family, who is now very much rooted in and established where they moved to. And it definitely put things in perspective. It definitely put in perspective that I never want to drive that drive again. It's a super long drive. I hate driving. It's not really what makes me happy in life. And things kind of accelerated very quickly from that particular point. I contemplated over a year and a half ago moving with them. The houses that I put a bid on, of course, if you've been paying attention to the real estate market, was absolutely cray-cray. I missed out on a lot of houses that I'm not going to say I was in love with, but that I would have been very happy to live in. And it just didn't work out for whatever reason. And so, I've been living a pretty lonely, pretty isolated life. Didn't think I was bothered by it because I'm generally someone who's been alone my whole life. I have no problem with being independent and dependent on myself because that's who I am. But like I said, every single time that I've had to endure a death and a loss this year, it has just increasingly put a new perspective on my life choices. And so I came back from that little mini vacation just a couple of weeks ago with an open mind and an open heart, and kind of put out a request to the universe to show me the path, to show me the way. Lo and behold, had a beautiful, beautiful opportunity for a brand new house to align in my path. Didn't think for 2 seconds that I would even get it, but everything happened very quickly. And I'm happy to say that I have acquired a brand new home in a totally different province. Haven't even set sight on it myself with my own eyes, all just, through trusting my path, trusting my guides, trusting my, the universe and what it is that I'm supposed to be kind of called to pursue from here. And yep, I am in a whirlwind right now where in about a month's time, I will be packing up from my home that I absolutely love. This place that I've been living in the middle of the woods, pretty much off grid, although I do have power. I just got Starlink to give me internet. I've been here for 4+ years with just the crappiest of situations with technology and so on and so forth. But this has been a really healing place for me. And I know I don't share a lot about myself. Probably going to change with this particular rant series because I know that y'all are here not only because of the information that I share, but that you care. You love, you support me. You're a little bit invested in me, curious about my story. And there's no better place than to share some of the highs and lows of my life than in a safe place with my people. So I want to thank you for being my people and creating the space in order for me to share. But I came out of a very, very dark time. My whole life has been about basically abuse and self-worth and substance abuse and, just the whole 9 yards. To give you a little bit of a rundown on how I got here 38 years later, I've been homeless. I have been in a dysfunctional, very abusive family situation, working on reconciling those relationships as much as possible, but definitely a very dark start to my life. I have been in nothing but toxic and very abusive relationships, romantic relationships. And I've had, if I was to put a topic and theme on my life, it would just be death and destruction, because that's the topics and themes that have been most prevalent in my storyline thus far. So about 4 or 5 years ago, I moved home from living out west in a domestic situation that was by far the most toxic, most scary, most poisonous situation that I'd ever been trapped in my life. I fled for my life. I drove me and my pets at the time and very, very, I'm going to say selective items that I cared to take with me. And I drove my ass across the country in order to come home. I never thought that I'd come home here, come back here. When I left here to go out west and live my dream, because of course I thought I was in love, I never thought I was going to come back here. And lo and behold, I came back beat down, broken, bruised, just damaged in so many different ways, and found myself in the house that I'm currently sitting in. And I love this place. This place has been my home, my comfort zone, my safety, first time in God knows how many years I ever even had a place to call home. I've moved. Well, I turned 38 today and I've moved 38 times. The next move that I make will be my 39th. So that should be a little bit telling about the craziness and chaos that I've had to endure in my life. And the house that I'm currently sitting in was my saving grace. And I am very, very sad, very brokenhearted that I am leaving where I'm at. There's nothing wrong with this place. I wish I could stay here forever. However, I'm alone. And I don't know that I should be alone. And so I am making the big, bold, brave move to piece out of here and to start over, essentially, in a different province, a little bit closer to family, a little bit closer to the people that I love, that I care about. But it is absolutely terrifying. And as happy as I feel like I should be, as blessed as I feel like I should be in this moment, I am struggling with the fear. Even though I know better, even though I know that I'm on the right path, doing the right thing, there's still a lot of heavier emotions that come up when you are ending a cycle and when you are beginning a cycle. And of course, all of us in Scorpio season over these past couple of weeks are ending a cycle and beginning a new cycle. Many of us in the depths of the darkness. I am no stranger to the darkness. I've learned to befriend it. I've learned to, learn all my demons' names and call them by name, because they are just as pivotal of a life force energy as the angels are. And I hope you realize that in your own life. But it's not easy to make a change, even if you know that that's the right thing to be doing, even though that that's the right path that you should be taking. It is not easy. So I'm sitting here on the cusp of, shedding the last year of my life and reflecting back over it and showing the attitude of gratitude for the highs, the lows, the everything in between, plucking out those silver linings and trying to really align my perspective with the events and experiences that I will be jumping into for this next natal year and really getting my mind right. So that's what I do on my birthday is I kind of push everyone away and I quiet my mind. I try to keep it as normal and practical of a day as possible. I do a birthday bath, if you will. I give thanks to the experiences that I just went through over this past year, as horrible as it's been. And I set my sights on what it is that I want to manifest, what it is that I want to create for my next natal year. And I would hope that you all have a similar practice, a similar routine that you do to really honor the old and usher in the new on your birthday. I know I've been a little bit hesitant to take on clients, especially new clients. I've been trying to service my old clients as much as possible, but it has been a very difficult year for me. I have been doing readings just upon request. And I feel like as far as busting into a brand new personal year for me, and of course, in 2023, I will be a little bit more open with the services that I offer, and I hope that you would consider a year ahead reading for yourself for your birthday. And that is basically where we just plan out your season, your cycle, the highs, the lows, the ups, the downs on what you can expect for the year ahead. Many people come at me, when the calendar is changing, looking for a year ahead reading, which in the past I have done. I don't know if I'm going to do it this year just because I have a pretty major move on my hand, and I don't know that I'm going to be able to accommodate that much time to do those very long and lengthy readings. However, they're more fitted for your birthday because, of course, your birthday is the very first day of spring in your chart, and we all move through the different seasons through our natal year, and we can really predict the highs, the lows, and everything in between based on scoping out your birth chart and your birth year and where the astrology is kind of indicating what kind of year you're going to have. So until I get that kind of open and out in the public, likely, towards January of 2023. If that's something that you're interested in and you definitely want to be put on the list in order to reserve your birthday spot, shoot me a message here. Shoot me a little message and just say, hey, here's my birthday. Would love for you to factor me in for a year ahead reading so that I can, stay ahead of the game. I'd be happy to do that. And of course, when you find me on the other side of my move, I'm definitely going to be a little bit more, open and focused with the services that I offer and the content that I put out there. I'm working on some courses and some workshops. And for those of you that have been with me and saying, yeah, she says this all the time and it never happens because she procrastinates, you wouldn't be wrong, but I'm really trying to, boss up. Get disciplined, get structured, and honor my calling. So I wanted to touch on that. Another thing that I wanted to touch on, and I thought it would be a good time to do so, is that many people, whether you've been with me for a while or you're just new to the scene, first of all, I just want to thank you for being here, for the love, for the support, for sharing your energy, and just being a presence in my life. Can't tell you how much that means to me. But many people kind of wonder how it is that I got here, why I know what I know, how I have the quote unquote gifts that I have. And I use quotes because sometimes I debate whether it's a gift or a curse. I know it's a gift for other people. In my own life, hasn't been such a blessing, hasn't been such a gift. But that is another topic for discussion another day. I just wanted to briefly kind of state that you can find my story a little bit more in depth. I think I did it on the 10th anniversary of my death. So that would have been probably about 3-4 years ago that I had my first decade under my belt, that I was a little bit more open with my story. So you can find that on my website. I'm not going to go into depth about the whole story because that is kind of being saved for the book that I will hopefully and eventually publish sometime here in my lifetime. But I just wanted to briefly answer how it is that I came to be. And so, to give you the shortest version, the summarized version, if you will, back in 2008, I found myself in a very interesting situation because I found out I was pregnant. And the guy that I was with at the time, I truly believe, was Satan's spawn, another, toxic relationship that I had to go through in order to learn my own worth and learn my own value. But whatever. I found out I was pregnant, and the majority of my life, the only thing that I ever knew to be true is that I wanted to be a mom, and mostly to right the wrongs of how I felt my mom, did me wrong. And, we all have those stories. We always have those relationships where we think we're going to do a better job than our parents did with us. And for me, it was just very important. That's all I really cared about. And throughout my life, I always kind of visualized that I was going to have twins. I was going to have a boy and a girl and get it done in one easy push, so to speak, and have my little family unit. And that was the most important thing to me. And very early on in my pregnancy, I realized that I was about to have the pregnancy from hell. And of course, I probably should have expected that when being impregnated with Satan's spawn, but I digress. I found myself in a very horrible situation with my pregnancy. And eventually, I found out that I was pregnant with twins. I had lost one of the twins naturally, and one of the twins actually had to be surgically removed from my body. And of course, my child did not get to see the daylight. And in the struggle of this pregnancy and of this surgery of removing the little baby that would never be, I died, and I flatlined for 4 minutes and 13 seconds. That's the amount of time that I was actually dead and on the other side. And it was the most beautiful thing that I've ever experienced, being on the other side. And I'm really sad a lot of the time that I had to be brought back in this way. But I do recognize and realize that I have a mission, a purpose, and that's why I was brought back. But let me just tell you what I learned, what I experienced in that time on the other side was the most profound experience of my life. And of course, this would have been in 2009 that my death experience happened. I hesitate to call it a near-death experience because I think when you're dead for, any length of time, it's a little bit more than near. So I hesitate to call it a near-death experience. However, it was February 18th of 2009, which is kind of interesting, seeing as my birthday is November 18th, right? So there's some similarities there. And when you get into birth charts and numerology and soul contracts, there's a lot of overlap, and there's a lot of interesting factors that took into place at the time of my death. And when I was brought back, of course, I had all of these gifts, all of this wisdom, all of this knowledge, and I had absolutely no clue who I was and wouldn't really realize what happened to me until a couple of years later. And spoiler alert, I woke up a different person with a different soul, with a different spirit, and didn't know what was going on with me, had no clue who my family was or who I was. And, medically speaking, they try to blame that on trauma and, medical amnesia, especially when you're in a drug-induced coma for 2 weeks in order to let your body heal. Basically, in that surgery, my airways, my veins collapsed, and that's kind of where the resuscitation began. And in their efforts to resuscitate me and bring me back to life, they actually stripped my vocal cords. They tried to intubate me, and of course, wouldn't work with a collapsed airway. My body was in a state of trauma, and they just rammed that thing down my throat and really ripped my throat all to shit, if I'm being honest. And when I woke up out of my drug-induced coma, I could not speak. I also could not walk. I also had no clue who I was, where I was at, what was happening. And it was a relearning process of basically how to live. And I had all of these memories that were not mine. I had flashes of an existence that was not the existence that I was living in. And it definitely took me a few years to realize that what had happened in that operating room is what I guess, was referred to as a walk-in scenario, when the soul of the old body just decides that, you know what, it's done with this lifetime, can't do it. And there is a soul on the other side of a higher vibration and frequency, with a mission, with a purpose, with knowledge, that is willing to jump into that body, take over that soul contract, take over the responsibilities of healing that body, and of course, do what they came here to do. And I know that sounds like a very outlandish concept. It very much is something that I struggle with trying to realize is real and is a part of my storyline each and every single day. But I think that if you were to sit down with my family members and ask me if I was the same person that, was born 38 years ago to my parents and into my family, they would say that, nope, that girl died February 18th of 2009. Now, granted, it has been a struggle. I have, of course, had to learn how to heal my body. I woke up with wisdom and knowledge that I didn't really know that I had. However, there was always these voices in my head, and I know that sounds scary. And trust me, I seen psychologists, I seen, doctors, and I had to be very careful with what I shared with them after, my death experience. Because of course you go through postpartum depression because of course your body went through a pregnancy. You just don't have the baby to prove it. And they were, highly concerned for my mental health. And, where you wake up and you don't know how to walk, and you basically are, a brand new person in this body, it was very jolting on so many different levels. And because I had these voices in my head that I didn't know where they were coming from, I just knew that I had to trust them. That's a scary concept as well, because I thought I was literally losing my mind, literally being like worried that I was having a schizophrenic type of episode, or I was possessed in some way. My supernatural and spiritual knowledge at that point was next to nil. I was not a spiritual person prior to my death scenario. But I learned the hard way, obviously, to trust those voices and to listen to that guidance. And lo and behold, here I am, like 13, 14 years later. My body has pretty much healed, although some would say that, I'm still in a state of healing. I do have to get, injections in order to keep my body going. I can't eat food like normal people. I can't live like normal people. My physical body does have limitations, but compared to the fact that those doctors told me I was going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life and I walk unassisted, I'd say I'm doing pretty well. In that journey, of course, I dove into my dark night of the soul, and I think we all have many dark nights of the soul after our great awakening. And of course, I had to do the hardest part, which was learn how to love myself. And that is what we're all here to do, is to raise our vibration and frequency to the love frequency, 528 hertz, in case you didn't know. And the love journey starts within us, and we have to love ourselves, and we have to understand that we are the change in the world that we want to see, but we have to be the change in our worlds first. And I'm not saying that my journey is over. I still have medical issues that I have to struggle with. I still have mental health and emotional issues that I struggle with, but it's all what we signed up here to do. It's all what we subscribed here to do. And my voice, this is what I touched on earlier when we first started this little rant series, is that I don't really like to be seen and I barely like to be heard, but my voice was damaged for a reason. And my voice, in comparison to what I sounded like prior to my death episode, is very different. My voice, I believe, was injured in order to be altered to a vibration and frequency that was being prepared to speak the truth, to be the knowledge and wisdom provider. And I'm not sitting here on my high horse saying that I know it all, because I definitely don't. But I am a channel to the higher divine intelligence that uses this body that I've been able to heal as I'm going to say a medium, because that's what I am and that's what we all are, to shed the light, to shed information on this great awakening that I have been preparing for a decade plus. And I know that the official Great Awakening, began in 2020, where the collective entered into their awakening. But I've been in boot camp for this, training for this since my death episode, since the soul that I currently am standing in and experiencing and using to speak to all of you. When that soul took over this physical body, it's been in training for this pivotal moment in humanity. And that's why I continue to speak my truth and tell my story. That's why I started my YouTube channel. That's why I do what I do, which is to hopefully align you with your truth, with the higher version of yourself, with kind of triggering and acting as a catalyst in your story in order for you to see the truth, the love, the knowledge, the wisdom within yourself. So my voice is my greatest tool. It is also my greatest pain in the ass, because if you've been listening for me any amount of time, you would know that I suffer with my voice greatly. I lose my voice often. It's shaky, it's sore. I have had many attempts by the dark force energies to literally shut me up and mute me. And there are many of days, whether you know it or not, that you are listening to me where I am in absolute, complete agony with my throat, with my voice, because it hurts like hell some days to speak. And I'm just not willing to sit back and let anybody have power and control over me. I'm sure as hell not willing to shut up and, find myself in a place of comfort and let the dark force agenda win. Not happening. Never, ever happening. I am a warrior. I have been a proven warrior time again. I will continue to prove myself to be as a warrior. And I'm going to continue to speak my truth and connect with those that resonate with it. So that's just briefly kind of what happened to me and what I've been going through for the last close to 15 years at this point. I know it's scary when, newly awakened people say, like, how much longer are these ascension symptoms going to last, and how much pain and suffering are we going to have to endure before this kind of releases and we're over this. And when I tell them that I've been going through this for 15 years, it kind of, it's kind of sad, kind of puts a dark spin on things. Now, let me just say that, things do get better. And the more that you learn to love yourself, and the more you do your shadow work, and the more that you learn to heal your body and raise your vibration and frequency, the less and less you're going to be impacted by the ascension symptoms, because essentially you are clearing out the gunk and clearing up the channels for the energy to flow through you, as it's supposed to do, with grace, with ease. It's supposed to be easy. It's not supposed to hurt. It's not supposed to be painful. We feel that hurt, that pain, that discomfort because we have a lot of junk stored up in our cellular memory from the pain and trauma, the suffering that we've had to endure here in this life journey, this life experience. And it's up to us. We're the only ones that can save ourselves. We're the only ones that can do the work. We're the only ones to do the deep dive in our shadow selves in order to unearth that painful process of unraveling our experiences and seeing where the energy blockages are and the unconscious blockages are, in order for us to remove that. And of course, do the work on our physical bodies, our mental planes, our energetic bodies, our soul state, in order to be the best conduit of energy that we can be. And that is our mission here on Earth, as humans, as physical beings, and as energetic soul spirit beings as well. And I hope that, my story, even though I just gave you the summarized version of it, can at least inspire you to switch up the perspective in your own pain story, in your own pain path, and the trauma and the suffering that you've had in your own storyline, and just recognize where it is that these storylines have been written by your higher self in order to inspire you, motivate you to rise above. I'm going to continue to fight. I hope that you will continue to fight. And, we're here. We're all here on this battlefield and on this journey together, again, to raise the vibrations and frequency of the collective and push humanity into a higher frame of consciousness so that we can evolve, not only here on Earth, but out in the galactic field as well. There are so many other different systems out there that we don't even know about right now that are depending on us to evolve and to get our collective into a state of awareness and consciousness and love, because we are essentially the key factor on how other planetary systems, other civilizations, how much they're able to evolve. And right now there's a lot of eyes on Earth, and I truly believe that I was brought back to Earth and brought back to life and gifted with the opportunity to walk into this body to clear the karma of this body, of this DNA, of this family line, which I've been doing. Trust me, have I been doing it, in order to, kind of close out the soul contract of the physical body and the energy and the spirit that was born into this world 38 years ago. And of course, follow my own mission and fulfill my own contract of the soul that walked into this body on February 18th in 2009. So it has been quite a time, been quite a journey. It's going to continue to be quite a journey. I thank you so much for being a part of it. But I did want to kind of disclose how I came to be and, why I know what I know and why I speak about what I speak about, because this is my mission. This is my contract. This is my purpose. And I am here to spread information and knowledge and wisdom. And in no way do I, want to be a leader in any capacity. What I want to be is an energetic catalyst for you to awaken to your own power, to your own strength, to your own healing journey. So I want to thank you so much for creating the space and providing me with the love and the encouragement in order to speak my truth and to tell my story and hopefully inspire you along the way. So yeah, I have technically 2 birthdays that I celebrate each and every year. The birth of this physical body and the spirit that, got this body through the first 24 years of life, and to the family, to the DNA, to the generations that came before me as far as this physical body and this egoic avatar goes. And then, of course, I celebrate my soul's birth, or rebirth, should I say, re-entrance to Earth birth on February 18th of every year. And that's kind of my death anniversary of the life force energy, the ego that got born on November 18th. And of course, the new soul life, that the new soul contract, the new soul mission and purpose that my current soul walked in and aligned with on February 18th of 2009. So in astrology, I do use those 2 charts to my advantage to see where my path is taking me and how they overlap and how they interact, so to speak. I do have the exact day, shouldn't say date, the exact time that I took my first breath back into this body after I left this body, went over to the other side, gained my knowledge and wisdom, came back, and I use that chart information as well. And I'm not saying that I have split personalities or that I'm two, different people. There's an intertwining that happens in the DNA of the soul that was born into this body and chose to leave, and the soul that has entered into this body and continues to keep this quote unquote legacy going. I will probably do a separate episode on what soul walk-ins are. And if you're thinking that it's possession, you're absolutely wrong. Possession is when there is not an agreement between the soul that is leaving and the soul that is entering a walk-in situation or scenario, or they call it a soul weave, a soul braid of DNA and souls within one body is agreed upon before you even get born into this lifetime. And even in some situations, in emergency situations where the soul has decided that it can't take any more of this life path and it decides to check out, that was not previously predetermined in their soul contract before entering Earth, there is always a negotiation among spirit guides, among the elders, to make sure that the soul that is choosing to leave knows the repercussions and consequences of doing so, and agrees to the soul and spirit that the elders have chosen would be the right fit and the right, I'm going to say, resume in order to enter into the body that the original host soul is leaving in order to fulfill the mission, the purpose, and the contract of not only the soul that chose to leave, but to clean up the karma of the old soul before the new soul, if you will, the walk-in soul, can get on with their own business and their own contract. So I know it sounds foo-foo. Trust me, it took me a long time to even comprehend that it was even possible, let alone that it actually happened to me. But, sometimes when you hear the truth, whether you wanted to hear it or not, it resonates in a different part of your heart and soul that, just makes it true, whether you can intellectually comprehend it or not. And I hesitate to talk about that because it does sound cray-cray, does sound woo-woo, and that's the last thing that I want to do. I'm actually a very intellectual person. I'm a science-based person. So this transition of the spiritual awakening and all that has taken place for me and the supernatural experiences that I've had have been very hard for me to digest because I am a very science-based, over-analytical person. And of course, there's no room really for that in the paranormal or supernatural realm of experiences. And let me just say, it has been an absolute mind F for me over these past 15 years of being able to truly explore the depths and the concepts that are outside of the realm of science and the metaphysical realm, which again is everything outside of science that we can comprehend and explain, has become the only world that I'm actually comfortable in living in since my awakening. And it has been quite a journey. And that's why I am super honored, super blessed to be gifted with the position of, I'm going to say, guidance, that I am here to offer so many souls that are going through their own awakening, their own healing journey, their own supernatural and paranormal experience. And because you're listening to me, I just have to assume that you are one of them. So I want to thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of your journey. So I think I'm probably going to end my rant here because Lord knows I could just rant for hours, and I will be definitely doing a lot more of these just rants here on Patreon, here for my VIP members. I can't thank you enough for the love and support. I can't thank you enough for creating the space, safe space, in order for me to share my journey. And hopefully in sharing, the information and the knowledge that I feel called to rant about, that it triggers and activates something within you to make you see yourself from a different set of eyes, your strength, your resiliency, your perseverance, your contract, your mission, your purpose in a different way. And together, I know, just because we've all signed up to do this and we've all signed up to connect with each other and cross each other's paths at this very pivotal point in humanity's basic birth or rebirth, let's say, that we're all on the battlefield together and we're going to help each other through. So what I will say is, first of all, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for the love, for the support. Thank you so much for allowing me to rant. And of course, I just want to thank you for crossing my path, for being part of my story, and of course, for being on the battlefield with me as we fight this fight. So I hope that gives you a little bit of a different perspective or a little bit of a deeper understanding on who it is that I am and what it is that I'm about and how it is that I got here. And I hope you'll join me for tonight's live chat where we go live talking about all of the energy, all the ascension symptoms as we kind of review the astrology of this past week, the astrology that we're about to jump into, and what that means for us. For our evolvement, a little bit of a birthday special. So I really do hope that you're able to join me. I want to thank you for tuning in, and I'm sending you nothing but love. We'll talk to you soon.